Restaurant Unstoppable. What the most successful restaurateurs know that you don't. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guests, Anthony Cruz and Gene Colley. Are you two feeling unstoppable today?
Unstoppable.
Feeling pretty unstoppable.
Yes, that's what we like to hear. So I'm excited to be here. You're here because I'm a good friend with Paul Tunerman. He's been a repeat guest on the show, and I'm always talking to Paul, letting him know when I'm planning to come to town. And when he found out I was coming to town, I was like, Paul, who do I got to get on the show? And he's like, for at least 6 months now, he's been saying, you got to get the guys from Southern's Food on the show. So here we are. We're in New Orleans. I know you have a really interesting background. Anthony, you have some experience working in white tablecloth settings. I know you worked for John Besh,
Susan Spicer.
Yep. And I know Emeril Lagasse's restaurants for a little while. And you worked at a Michelin star in New York City.
I did.
Yeah.
That's
and
correct.
I know you're new to the restaurant industry, Gene. But what were you doing before this, real quick?
I worked for a family business in a warehousing business on the riverfront for the Port of New Orleans.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you guys crossed paths around 6 years ago. In 2007, you opened Gulf's Tacos.
17.
Yeah. Thank you very much. 2017, you opened Gulf's Tacos. About 2 years later, you took a swing at a fried chicken concept, which is doing crazy good right now, known as Southern Foods. But you guys are going to be rolling out a bunch of other stuff, I've heard. We'll get into the story, but for now, let's just get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
I have a quote by Muhammad Ali, actually.
Nice.
And it says, "Service to others is the rent we pay for our room on earth."
Service to others is the rent we pay for our room on earth. Did I butcher it?
I probably butchered it, but I'm close.
But I love it. Why that quote? How does that resonate with you?
If I go back a few years ago, everything that's happened with the companies, I think the catalyst for all of it is helping others.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that. And I like the essence of what this is all about, sharing information, helping one another. When I started giving back and helping, I started receiving. And I love it.
I can't wait to dive into when that turning point happened for you. But it's so true. I mean, it's one of the biggest lessons I've learned on the show. We are tribal, and our ability to take care of those people around us will only serve us in the long run. The better we take care of those who are around us, the better they'll take care of us. It's a great lesson for sure. So where does it make sense to start sharing your story? So I know, Anthony, you were on a trajectory for a career in food and beverage. Did you get? And then I know you got off that path for a while. You were working in healthcare for a little while, trying to bring awareness to opioids, right?
Yes.
So I guess let's bring it back to when did you know? I mean, what was going on? Just tell your story.
Okay, I'm from Los Angeles originally.
Okay.
And I made a call. There was a cookbook. I think it was called like Two Fat Ladies.
Okay.
Okay. Which they had a show on PBS, and I was at my mom's. There was a cookbook, and it was about Oysters Rockefeller.
Okay.
And things weren't going the best in LA at this particular time. This was maybe 2006, and I called Antoine's restaurant, never cooked, and I said, "Hey, you guys hiring? Katrina just hit." And I talked to the chef. He said, "We are." I literally, it's one of those moments. I packed up my 4Runner and drove to New Orleans.
Nice.
And I didn't get that job. I got a job at the Napoleon House in the French Quarter, and I just worked up the ranks.
Yeah.
From there, I went on to NOLA, and I worked over there as a line cook, and I just kind of moved around, and I started mentoring with different restaurants and chefs that I admire. I worked at Bayona with Susan Spicer. I worked at Luke, John Besh restaurant under Steve McHugh, who's awesome. Worked with Adolfo Garcia for a little bit, and then I worked at Le Ferret in 2010. I think we got Best Restaurant in New Orleans Magazine. James Corwell, is that his? I hope I got it. Amazing. He was a certified master chef, and he was probably the most instructive. And I even went to New York and worked at a Michelin star restaurant, and then burned out. Started drinking way too much.
What year was this when you burned out?
The burnout, I guess the burnout would have happened around 2012, 2013.
So from 2007 to 2005 is what you just laid out for us, basically. Or 2015, sorry.
Yes.
2007 to 2015.
Well, about 2007, 2000.
Did you say 12? 5 years is what I meant to say. You had 5 years in the industry. From that,
Only 5? Yeah.
Yeah. But the point is, like, we just recently had somebody on the show who said never work at one spot. It was actually Mike Ripka from Torchy's Tacos. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that brand.
No.
But out of Austin, huge. He said never work more than 2 years at one place when you're coming up to get that experience, to round yourself out. Give at least a year. You know, you don't want to be jumping around too much, but you should be moving around to learn. And you worked at some, I think you listed at least 4 or 5 legitimate operations in that time. Were there any like key spots where you really evolved the most?
I think with each one, if I go back to each chef, there were moments where they almost made me cry, but I also got something out of it. I remember Susan Spicer, just her meticulousness and her like we would have to get the herbs and the way you had to pick it. And I remember thinking at the time, this is bullshit. Like, this is way over the top. And then just learning how much passion she had in her product. And there was time she literally almost made me cry or quit, but it was probably cry. And there were just certain chefs, James Corwell, his knife skills and his pursuit of perfection I stood in awe of that chef. And I just saw various things. I've worked with some of the old school chefs where they kind of yell, authoritarian. And when I went to Saul's in New York, he was so laid back. He had a Michelin star and was just so chill. And just each one brought something to the table. And I guess I just kind of absorbed it.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's pull back some of the layers on this. So with Susan, you said detail. From her, you really learned the importance of detail and the meticulousness of pulling off every leaf on the spices there. She also said she almost made you cry. But what was it about her that made you want to come back?
You know, I think all good leaders is they demand your respect.
Okay.
Okay. And so there's that thing. It would be worse if they said you let me down. You know, and so I think it was just, I want to impress them. I respect them. I mean, she was doing stuff when women were not in kitchens. And so there was just that level of respect. I think that was it of just, I was drawn to it. I wanted to learn.
So she demanded your respect. But reflecting back at that time, reflecting back on this woman, what was it about her that was so respectful for you? Why did she have your respect? What did you respect about her?
Just what she was doing culinarily. I think at this particular time, she was doing some TV spots on Top Chef. She had just put out a cookbook. She had helped. I mean, she was, I believe she was pretty key in getting Donald Link kind of started up and just helping the people that had helped her along the way and just making that footprint in New Orleans food scene. And it was just that. And I think it goes a long way. Maybe not outside of New Orleans, but I think if you say that you worked at a Susan Spicer restaurant, you know, in this industry in New Orleans, I think that means something.
Yeah. Now, were you close with her? I mean, I know a lot of people probably came through her restaurant. What did you learn about like leadership and how to command that respect?
I think the leadership. I mean, I think that's what I got from her. I know that like Steve McHugh, he's got a place in San Antonio now.
You cured.
Yes.
Yeah.
I learned the way he would expedite and run a line. I kind of saw him as like like a conductor running an orchestra, and that was amazing.
And you worked with him at Luke when you were.
I worked with him at Luke. Yes.
And you were in San Antonio for a little bit then.
I wasn't in San Antonio.
Okay.
No.
So he got. I think they opened a Luke in San Antonio at one point. Maybe a second. Luke.
I think I heard that.
It's hard to keep track of everything, but I did not realize that Steve McHugh came up through Besh Restaurants.
Yep.
So you were working for Besh Restaurants, and that's when McHugh was also there before he opened Cured. You said you learned about how to orchestrate the way he expedited, right? What else did he teach you?
Just I think on a personal level, he was. I just resonated towards him. He was funny. He was witty. He could do Vanilla Ice. He could do that he would do it on the line, word for word, rap it. And he knew how to make you laugh and he knew how to push you. I just remember a lunch rush at Luke was almost insane. And you don't get tickets. It's all callback.
Damn.
And if you ever worked on the line, the ego does not want to allow you to say, what's an all day? And the way he would just say, it's little, you know, enunciate here, say it there. And I might be 40 tickets in, and he could just say it in such a way, like Mozart almost, you know? And you just felt at ease. Like you're basically going through a very stressful situation, and he could just kind of guide you along, you know? And with most chefs that I've admired, they know almost how to push you to your breaking point. It's just like innate quality, and it's like they get a sense, okay, he's about to break, and just that you did a good job. They wouldn't do it often, but you did good tonight. And just that little statement would build you up just enough, and they'd push you to your breaking point, and then do that. And what you're really learning is what you're made of, how to be better.
Yeah. So
you know?
A great chef, when we hear from you, is a great chef knows to push the envelope and knows when an individual, and it's case by case. So you can't push certain people as hard as other people. So you got to know how to read people's emotional state, and then how to bring them to that edge to get the most out of them, and then reward them so they know that they're growing. Like there's a lot happening there. The other thing that I pulled that was kind of subtle is this idea of being able to stay cool, calm, and collected when everyone's in the shit, because everyone's gonna, like, everyone might be in the shit, but if you get in the shit there with them, like, you know, as the leader, you gotta be mindful of what your energy is, and it sounds like he had that ability to keep it locked down.
Yeah, and look, I want to give a shout out to Gene, because we're kind of yin and yang.
Yeah, don't worry,
I tend to be fiery and passionate, and when we're busy, Gene is the cool one. So he's actually, I kind of get worked up. I'm emotional, and Gene is cool. Sometimes I get frustrated, but he's actually the calmness in the storm, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
So.
So any other key mentors, key people? You put a lot of emphasis on Susan. You put a lot of emphasis on Steve McHugh. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think James Corwell I probably learned the most from. He was just doing, I know that we were doing dishes that were reminiscent of like French Laundry. He had the Alinea cookbook, and he would just kind of welcome that. And his knife skills, he would just tornado carrots, which is ridiculous. Why do I need a carrot with, 8 sides? And he would just, and it kind of goes in to out. He would have knife skills that were impeccable. And he was amazing. He was probably the most talented. I know that he would do a dish by concept. He would diagram it, talk about it, and he would allow you to come up with something, but it had to be solid. And yeah, he was amazing. I think he started Ocean Huggers. It's like a plant-based. I think it's like a sushi. I've been trying to reach out to him. I need to get a hold of him. But yeah, he's doing tuna, like tomato, where it looks like tuna, and doing like plant-based sushi, which is being sold at.
Okay.
He might be a good recommendation.
There we go. He's on my radar. So it sounds like you learned a lot about food. But what did he teach you about leadership or business? Did he give you any business skills or anything along those lines?
Okay, how can I apply that?
Putting you through the ringer right now.
Okay, so, and this is something that I struggle with is, so when I'm working with these chefs, I don't have the skill set that they necessarily have, okay? But I'm a cog in the machine. And so I think what I got from them is you didn't necessarily, and then I'm applying this today. So I might have people that are working with me, for me, that might not have a certain skill set that I possess, but how can we orchestrate that where we're all getting to the place we want to be?
Okay.
And you actually hit it on the head. It's an individual case-by-case basis. So what does that tell me? I have to be present. I have to be aware. I might need to go hard with this one. This one, sometimes people need a fire under their ass, and sometimes people need kind of a pat on the shoulder, and which one's going to work? And just that ability to be present, to know your staff.
Yeah.
And I think that is one thing that I got, and from them, along with it, all of them they were like perfectionists. They wouldn't let something subpar go out.
And I think that's the power of getting on the right teams, because not every restaurant you walk into are going to be operating at Michelin star skills. But if you can get into one of those restaurants, the people that are there are building their careers. They're going to take it seriously. You're going to become the average of those individuals for sure. I think it's you can't underestimate the value in that. But let's put you kind of on the back burner for now, Anthony,
Please.
so we can focus on your boy Gene over here. So Gene, what were you doing? Where was your life? Any like key like just kind of paint that picture of what was going on in your life during this time when he's
So I worked for a family business on the riverfront, working for my dad.
Gotcha.
And I went out there young, 17 years old. And he put me working with these old school longshoremen.
Okay.
And they were my mentors.
Yeah.
These guys taught me work ethic that I wouldn't have learned anywhere else.
Pick one guy and give us that example of what that work ethic looked like.
I would have to say Dale was my dad's foreman.
Okay.
And to this day, I don't know anybody that can outwork this man. He's in his 50s, and he would get down there and work with us. But these guys taught me to when something needs to be done, you just do it. You don't talk about it. You don't get somebody else to do it. If you see something that needs to be done and you don't do it, these guys would jump all over you.
Yeah.
And I'm 17. I don't want to get jumped on. So I learned that early.
Take the initiative. Treat it like you own
exactly.
it. Right?
And I carry that with me with everything that I do. I probably work too hard. I'll go crazy and work 10 hours straight because I just don't want to stop.
So are you passing that sentiment on to do you guys have people working for you right now?
Yes.
I know you're still in a small operation.
Yes. At one point before the pandemic, we had probably 10 people that would work for us rotating.
So how did you communicate that mentality of just if you see something, do it? How did you pass that along to the people that work
by
for you?
example.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like we would do it. We're the ones cleaning these fryers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're the ones wiping stuff down before service and after service. And, you know, like there's nothing we will tell them to do that we don't do on a regular basis.
But if they see you do it, now they know that's how we learn. Is we learn through witnessing other people and seeing the expectation and witnessing it and doing it to the same level. We have to paint that picture of perfection, or people will never know what to aim for. But how do you let people know? You mentioned like this mentality of letting them know that if they see something that needs to get done, to giving them the permission to take the initiative. And a lot of people don't give their people the free will to do that kind of thing.
Well, I think you have to care to take initiative. And our people have been working with us from almost day one, most of them. And they're a part of it. Like we make them a part of it.
Yeah.
And they care. You know? And I think that's how you take initiative when you really care about something and you're involved in it. You know what I mean? If you don't care about it, it's hard to take initiative. Oh, I don't feel like wiping this fryer. I'm just going to ignore it.
Okay.
But I feel like when you care about it,
I want to come back to that later in the story and how you empower your people to take initiative, because I think that's a great lesson to give that level of freedom to your people to you know, if they see something, you hear people say it all the time, that's not my job. But like to create that the lower the hierarchy, right? And to empower people to know the expectation across the board and to make it right when it's not right, I think is super powerful. But back to the story, we're 2012. You're starting to get to the point where you're burning out. Did you kind of hit a situation? Did you mention alcohol? I heard maybe you're drinking too much.
Yeah, drinking. Yeah, just drinking too much.
Yeah,
you know.
And you were in New York City during this time.
I went to New York for a little bit, and then I came back to New Orleans, and it was kind of done. Look, one thing I'll say is, you know, in the service industry, it kind of can cater to that. If that's your lifestyle, like heavy drinking, that's very normal sometimes in the industry. I think it's shifting, but and just got burned out. Yeah, burned out, and so I quit. I quit drinking. Haven't had a drink for almost 6 years, and yeah, I got out the food scene. Look, still a foodie, but wasn't gonna work. And look, this is kind of coming to the forefront with the pandemic. You know, it's funny that I worked in all this fine dining, yet you know one of the things I could rarely do
was eat the food.
Eat fine dining.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was just I don't know if it was necessarily like premeditated, but just kind of life took me in a direction of healthcare for a while. So
why that path? And did you like take us through your recovery? Because I think that's something that I feel like we can learn something from. A lot, like you pointed out, it's an issue within this industry, right? So what did you do? You said 6 years now, so we're in 2020. So 2014 was your last drink.
Yeah.
And was that when you were working in the healthcare?
No. That was before.
Okay.
That was before. So yeah, that was my last drink in 2014, and it kind of ties into the quote that I opened up with. Didn't necessarily know I was going to disclose this, but
that's what I do, man. I get
no. Look, it's good. Actually, one of my dreams is I want to get with a few chefs, and I'd love to start a nonprofit where we can find resources and get people help. That if they're drinking, they're in the service industry, that we can kind of facilitate them to get some of the help. But yeah, it just I lost my train of thought.
No, man. Thanks for going there. It's a good time to take a sip.
Yeah, so I got sober, and actually I started working at a treatment center and just kind of moved up the ladder of healthcare, like behavioral health. And
so what happened between 2012 and 2014? Like, what was going on in your life that transitioned into healthcare?
Oh, just a lot of drinking.
Okay.
You know?
So what the hell happened that made you all of a sudden say, I'm done?
I guess it just got dark, like
Yeah.
anything else. You know, like the hoarder whose house has just gotten ridiculously, but that was inside.
Yeah.
So yeah, things had just kind of gotten out of control, burned a lot of bridges, woke up one day, realized I don't have many friends. You know, a lot of the people I'd been working with were opening up restaurants and stuff, and, you know.
Yeah. People.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it was
I feel you.
a pivot.
But, you know, the reason why I'm so interested in this is because I just finished reading for this second time or listening for the second time, The Power of Habit. And they use alcoholism in people that recover from drinking too much. And one of the big things, I don't know if you had alcoholism. I don't want to label you. I don't put that label on you. But
He did.
okay. But the thing is it's the power of habit, of like replacing the drinking habit with something else, because like you still have the routine stay in the same, but what makes AA work, for example, is that the coming together, having the group, is they replace that togetherness with going to the bar, or a lot of people drink because they want to socialize, and with AA you have the power of the group. Was there anything that you did in your life to replace the habit of drinking that maybe we can pull a tip from this?
Yeah. So look, I did. I started going to some meetings. I kind of have a group of people kind of like-minded, but I mean, it's funny because most of our pop-ups are at breweries.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just kind of replaced that. And then the most important thing, and it's nothing I really like to talk about, but since we're going down this road, is I give, along with Gene, a lot of my spare time goes to helping people without, you know, we don't post about that, but we help a lot of people that struggle with addiction and alcoholism. On top of that, kind of our mission statement was like good food supporting a good cause. Gulf Tacos gives a percentage of all sales to Bridge House, which is a wonderful organization in New Orleans that helps men and women with alcohol and drug addiction. So it's just something that we do.
But it sounds like this community of people that you're trying to help are your new support group, right? And now you're showing up to be there for them. You're being their new routine, their new habit, right? Instead of like they're I don't know. I'm making assumptions right now, but like there's things we can do, right? I mean, what are your thoughts, Gino, on this? It sounds like you got to witness this from a third perspective. What changed? Were you're friends with each other at this point, right? 2014.
I'm in the same boat.
Okay.
We're both in recovery.
Nice.
We met in recovery. Our sobriety dates are 1 day apart.
He's got one day more than me.
So we went through this. We went through this journey together of early sobriety before doing any kind of business together.
No, it's a great segue, because the next question was, when did you guys start to overlap? Because it was around this time, 2014,
right?
Where you guys have, you said it's been 6
years.
years.
We were both getting sober together at the same time, same group of people. I knew he had the food background. He cooked all the time for friends, you know what I mean?
So almost in a way, the two of you, and again, I'm making assumptions here.
Make them. Come on, make them.
But the two of you guys were, you got to replace you had each other to replace those habits,
Absolutely.
those routines. And it's so important. I don't think you can get through it on your own. I think you need support, you need people, you need new groups of people trying to become better. You need to get away from the old routines, the old habits, right? And it sounds like having each other was that vehicle you need to get out of that bad situation.
I helped them a lot.
Let's move away from the dark shit. This is interesting stuff, though. So you guys come together 2014. When did the conversation for doing your own concept start?
I started working for a friend of mine on the weekends who did festivals. He sold food at festivals, and I would do that to make extra money. And I knew Anthony was a chef, so I kept telling him, man, if we could get into these festivals, if we could come up with something that no one's doing at these festivals, we could make some money with
When did these conversations start?
Probably 2015.
Okay,
early,
so like a year
early
later.
2015. And then we talked about it for probably 6 months. And then I found out that a guy who was doing tacos at all these festivals quit. He was burnt out. He was done. He was selling all of his equipment. I tell Anthony about it. And at the time, I think I had like $1,500, $2,000 to my name.
Okay.
And I think he had about the same.
Yeah.
And we went and met with the guy. and we had his storage unit, and we made him an offer of $3,000 for
Man.
all of his equipment, and that was pretty much everything we had. And I remember our wives were like, "What are y'all doing?"
Doghouse.
I have a picture of that day. Like, it was like this. The van was here recently, but it's gone. The van we bought from him and a little bit of cooking equipment. And I have this selfie I took, like driving away with the van. We were so happy. And it's like the raggediest van you've ever seen. You know.
So what's your draw to the food and beverage? Because it sounds like this was like never really a part of your life until this moment.
Right. So I enjoyed working these festivals with
Okay.
this guy. I mean, we had fun.
Okay.
It was a lot of work, but it was exciting. It was something different for me. I'm used to operating heavy machinery on a riverfront, and it's
Yeah.
just, I was so burnt out on that. And this was something new
Yeah.
and exciting, you
love
know? And we bought that equipment, and in 2 weeks, we had our first event booked.
You were just telling us about how this guy who had a taco operation out of a food truck was starting to burn out. And I love that approach of being someone's exit strategy and just being ready, having a desire, knowing that desire's there, but not necessarily just going for any opportunity, waiting until you can get a deal and being someone's exit strategy. What was this trailer, this whole get up, turnkey operation valued at, if you guys had to guess?
Probably $3,000.
Okay, so you guys didn't get a steal or anything like that.
I mean, look, if we would have had to buy everything we needed to do that first event, it would have cost way more than $3,000.
If you had a ballpark number, what would you say? 8,000, 7,000?
Yeah, probably
8 to 10.
between 8 to 10
Yeah.
to buy everything new. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And this guy had everything that we needed to do our first
Yep.
event.
Yep.
Basically, we had to buy a few small things.
And you worked for him before, right?
No,
you didn't.
This was a
work for him.
different guy that I saw
Okay.
while I was working for the other guy. I
Got
would
you.
see him at all these festivals, and I remember it's funny when we showed up to buy the stuff. He just looked so beat, and he's like, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why on earth would you want to get into this business? You
Yeah.
know? And he goes, but then I think, we're at different stages in life, and we were so excited. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think there's so much power in being someone's exit strategy because you can they just want to wipe their hands clean of the situation and just walk away from it if they've had enough. A lot of people get into this industry not knowing what to expect, and they just underestimate the amount of work it's going to be.
Tough.
Yeah, so you guys for $3,000, this is when you guys start Gulf Tacos.
Correct.
Tacos, yeah.
And this was 2017?
17.
17.
February 2017.
All
We
right.
bought the equipment, and that day we secured our first event.
And I want to give a shout out to, he gave us a contact for our first event, which was a really good event. And he didn't have to do that. He gave
Okay.
me a phone number. I called the phone number, and we were able to get in. It was, 3 weeks?
It was
happening.
I think it was 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the cool thing about this too is that that this person in this scenario, like the festivals they go to, there's a void, a taco
Exactly.
void now because you
Exactly.
just and there's a lead right there for
Right.
you, like the relation. You're not just buying the equipment. You're buying the relationships and the opportunities that come along with it. which is
Most
hard.
festivals won't allow duplicate items.
Yeah.
So you have to come up with something that no one's doing, but that's practical to do at a festival outdoors.
Okay, I love it. So did you instantly go out and become an LLC? Like,
Yes.
So how long did it take you to get your first event? Was it like you said?
It was
instant?
between 2 and 3 weeks. We
So-
had an event book, so I jumped straight on a computer,
Yeah.
went to gobiz.com,
There you go. This is-
and set up the LLC. In
Gotcha.
2 days, we had the LLC.
okay. Go Biz. What is Go Biz?
It's a platform here in New Orleans.
Okay.
It's like a one-stop shop. You can do every step. It brings you through it step by step. It's super user-friendly.
Gotcha.
So within 2 days, you can have an LLC.
Gotcha.
Pretty cheap.
Nice. And what take us through that first 2 weeks? You guys didn't even have a menu. Like, what
So
was that?
we had all the equipment at my dad's warehouse,
Okay.
and we would go in there after hours. And I remember we set it all up in there, like how we were gonna do it. I think this should go here, and then we need a front. So I'm like building all kind of stuff to make it look good. We made all the menu boards right there. Like I'm cutting wood and painting it, and we had a friend of ours, draw the menu boards up. I mean, we were scrambling. And this first event was a big event. It wasn't like a little market. Like it's Barkus, which is like a Mardi Gras event.
Okay.
And there's only 3 food vendors for thousands and thousands
Wow.
of people.
So out of thousands of people, it was you and 2 other vendors. You got this opportunity.
Correct.
That's incredible. So, like reflecting back at this time, I mean, festivals is something that doesn't come up a lot on the show. So I really don't know best advice for festivals. Like, you've been doing festivals now for 3 years. Like, knowing what you know now, what do you wish you knew in those first couple events?
Well, I had the advantage of working for someone who did festivals.
Okay.
So I had a lot of that, that the process of getting it out quick, you know what I mean? And he had the cooking experience, and we combined that.
Okay.
The advice I would give someone trying to get into it is start small.
Okay.
That way you can learn quick. You know what I mean? You can learn, okay, this isn't going to work. You don't want to be in that spot when you have a line of 100 people. You don't want to learn like.
So when you say like start small, and I love that advice, by the way. I mean, that's something I think like even just the idea of starting at a festival, it compounds off that idea of starting small. Start where you can. Start with a
market.
Yeah, but what does starting small look like relative to the festival scene? Like, what's that look like?
I would say like around here, there's a lot of farmers markets and little smaller arts markets that accept food vendors for real cheap. $80 will get you a spot. And you go out, and it's not so crazy
so
to
it's
start.
It's $80
for a booth.
For a booth.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
You bring your stuff, you set it up, you sell. It's not so crazy where you learn, your best process to get the food out.
And then as you start to fine tune those processes, you start trying to get into bigger festivals. Got you. Beautiful.
We didn't do that.
You didn't do that. You started.
First one we started was.
Yeah. I think we did 5,000 in sales.
5,000 in sales.
We have pictures of our line 100 yards long for 4 hours.
So why tacos?
Well, that wasn't what initially I wanted to do, but you hit it on the head. So we knew, and he was in a lot of big festivals. We knew there would be a gap. They oftentimes don't do repeat food, and so we jumped on it.
Yeah.
And one thing I will say about festivals, just some of the lessons we'd learned, is you have to be adaptable. It might rain. It might say no rain, and then it rains. What are you going to do? We do a market where there's literally a 45-degree angle curb, and we cook around it. Wow. And what it is we might have to set up based on there might be an incline. We might have to set up completely different, the layout. And just, I think what it did is this ability to think quick on our feet, assess the situation, and kind of just
adaptability,
tinker it. And that has paid dividends during this pandemic.
Oh, I bet.
Because we constantly, there's some type of obstacle, some type of hurdle, and we're just used to it. And I think with the starting small is don't buy a $4,000 refrigerator. We had a bunch of used from Facebook Marketplace. I think in my carport we had 6 refrigerators that we got for $50, and then we kind of I guess we're lucky, man. We put our savings. It's funny that at the time, that was all the money we had.
Yeah.
It's funny. We can laugh at that amount now, but and it was scary. But the whole process, we've been debt free.
We've never had a loan. Like we buy stuff a little bit at a time.
I love that approach, really. I think people just have this vision in their mind, and they feel like I'm not going to be legitimate until I achieve that vision, until I have all these things that say I'm a legitimate business. But your scrappiness, the ability to do it from scratch and to have it all be your own and to not go into debt, to not owe anybody money when you take these loans, but to do it because when you can do it with your own free will, I mean, that's so powerful. How has that served you guys? Just being able to know that there's nobody you're responsible for.
Oh, it's great.
Other than yourselves and your families.
That first event, we did 5,000 in sales.
You already got your money back.
We didn't touch it.
You didn't
touch it. Yeah.
And we used, and that money's been building ever since. I mean, we hardly ever took any money.
Yeah.
We would just keep it and reinvest it.
What would you say your overhead expenses are to do a festival? Like, what are your
well,
what does
it
it cost
depends.
you guys?
I mean, some festivals, like we do one, the entry fee is $4,300.
$4,300.
And it's 2 hours away.
Okay.
And then with the staff and that one's really high. And then we do some here that are a $250 entry fee, and we do 5,000, 6,000 in sales.
Damn.
And it's only 5 hours, so staff isn't too bad.
And when you're not doing of these festivals, were you taking the taco operation to any other events, or were you guys doing events, or when did
we did a few small like breweries and stuff like that with the tacos.
Okay.
But in the beginning, it was mainly festivals, and then there's a few markets that we do once a month.
Okay. So
And just the downside of that, though, because we're talking about the positivities of it, the downside of being a small thing, you're doing a festival, is gauging how much product to buy. And that is an art form.
Yeah.
Because it's not like we have a brick and mortar, or if we buy 100 pounds of shrimp and you sell, you have a lot of spoilage.
Yeah.
And so it's that fine, that sometimes the first go around the festival, there were some tough lessons learned.
Overbuying or underbuying?
Both.
Both.
I mean, what would you rather, overbuy or underbuy?
It depends. I prefer to overbuy.
Yeah.
Nothing gets me more than
People that show up that can't try it.
Yeah.
Man, if we sell out with 4 hours left for that day, it's like
It does hurt.
oh, it kills me.
Money.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like, man, we should have brought more.
Yeah,
you
but
know?
at the same time, you overbuy, then you end up getting an unsuspected rainstorm, right? And then you sit with all that inventory, all that product that is going to spoil because you don't have the next day unless you have back-to-back events.
we watch the weather, and if it looks decent, I would rather have a little bit left over than not enough.
Yeah. So what secrets are there to finding that sweet spot? Just experience.
Yeah. Experience, and then you can gauge. Social media has been big. I could almost tell on a post and the reaction of what kind of a turnout it'll be for Southerns.
Yeah.
Which is kind of neat, and then just kind of learning.
Yeah.
Each year I've done this. You do this festival, you learn.
And then I wanted to touch on the food a little bit.
Okay.
Because so we realized, okay, we're doing tacos. We have 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And we haven't even made any tacos.
Right.
So we're at his house. He invites some people over. And I'm telling you, in one day, he had the best tacos I've ever eaten. Fish tacos, shrimp tacos, and a braised pork belly taco. Just 3 tacos. That's the only ones we're doing. And we took that fish taco to Louisiana Seafood Fest against the best restaurants in New Orleans.
They're all restaurants, yeah.
And when I got there and we saw our competition, I'm like, man, if we break even, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
I just hope maybe we'll get some scraps. And the word got out on that fish taco, and we did better than anyone there.
Did you guys win the
and we won the fan favorite award.
That's awesome.
And no one had ever heard of us.
Do you think that no one ever hearing of you? Do you think that might have worked to your benefit? Because like
I don't know. I mean, if I go there and I see 2 Jacks and I see all these big restaurants, and then I'm probably going to eat with them.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to eat at Gulf Tacos.
No, I think it's more handicapped than
I think word got out. That's what we like 3-day festivals because it gives time for word to spread. We do better every day.
So when you're this is something that's interesting. Like when you have a brand that's new, and it's all about getting the word out, right? That's what you guys are trying to do in those first early days there.
I'm sorry.
We might take a break.
Well, no, it's Nick. He's actually he's one of our employees. He's probably just looking to put the AC on the food truck.
He's really good looking too.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm curious about is how do you get the word out? Like, what have you learned about things you can do to get the word out? And because it's all about eventually people start to follow you around. They're like, oh, like Gulf's Tacos or Southern's Food is going to be here, and you have people that follow you around. Yeah.
Well, now it's all social media, but in the beginning, we didn't really have a big social media following, and I think it was just like at that event, our food is good.
Yeah.
That's important. You can't there's other vendors that come out there and they're just trying to flip frozen foods and stuff, but we're cooking on site. Everything that you eat was just cooked. He's in the back cooking in small batches. You know what I mean? And I'm up there making them. And every taco you would get, that fish would crunch when you take a bite. It just came out.
So I'm assuming it was a fried. It's
a beer batch. So I lived in Mexico for a little bit. There's a little town called Pescadero.
Okay.
And it's between Todos Santos and Cabo San Lucas. And I had this fish taco, and it was probably less than $1 in this hut. And it's just one of those things you eat that just imprints on your brain. So I tried to mimic that. And as far as getting the word out, it might be the slowest form of marketing, but word of mouth is a powerful thing. And the thing at a festival, if you make good food, they're going to come back.
Yeah.
And that's really what we believe.
They're going to tell their family. They're going to tell their friends.
Yeah.
And we feed the event organizers, always.
Why is that?
Because I want them to tell everyone man, you have to try. That happens all the time with us. I mean,
they probably speak to other event organizers.
Exactly.
And they spread the word, and then you
Right.
get invitations to go different places.
yes, they all know each other, and it's like, hey, I really need a vendor for this festival. Man,
Yeah.
you should try Golf Tacos. They're
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and that's a lesson that's come up a few times with around guerrilla marketing, right? Just putting your food into people's mouths.
Exactly.
And doing whatever it takes. If that means driving around on your Vespa and going to every office building and just getting your food into people's mouths to get, like, that's the best way. If your food's good enough, your food should speak for itself, right? So what happened with Golf Tacos? Because it seems like you guys were going, like, you're winning these awards, you're getting invitations to all these festivals, you're picking up momentum. And it seems like right around 2019, right around the same time that Southern's Food starts, what was going on? I don't want to.
So the way Southerns took off, we kind of just Golf Tacos is already in every festival, just about.
Yeah.
The main ones. So we were kind of just focusing on getting Southerns to that level, getting it in all the big festivals, and then it just took off. Where when we won the Fried Chicken Fest award with Southerns,
Okay, yeah.
and since then,
What
it's
year was
just,
this? This is 2019, right?
Yeah,
recent.
this was 2019, but we got to go back a little bit. Actually, the funny thing is with Southerns is my buddy has a bike shop, and I just told the story last night. He was struggling at the time, and I felt bad.
What kind of bike shop are we talking?
Boca Bikes. Shout out to Boca Bikes and my buddy Andy, really good friend. And so I love my friends, and so I remember I'd stay up a few nights, like, man, what can I do to help him out? By the way, his bike shop is thriving at this point. But so I remember thinking this is before the Popeyes craze. I just remember thinking there's not a good fried chicken sandwich. Like, I'll drive across town to get a good burger.
Yeah.
Okay? And then why is there not a good fried chicken? I pitched it to him. I was like, dude, no one's doing it. I think it would be a hit. He thought about it for a day, said, I can't do it. And so it became an obsession. At this point, too, and this is important, I remember feeling Golf Tacos was doing good, but it had kind of plateaued. And I remember also thinking we couldn't get into certain events, because we were just tacos. Even though we could do anything, the name is Golf Tacos. And I felt like we had painted ourselves in a corner. And if you actually look at the Southerns logo, I have a rolling pin and a cleaver. That's sweet to savory. And the point of that was, I want the whole gambit. If we want to do donuts, we're going to do donuts. We're not going to do donuts right now, but I just remember thinking the next company, it's not going to be pigeonholed into one thing. And so went the year-long obsession on making this chicken. And our cholesterol, I'm surprised we don't even have a heart attack. We went everywhere searching out the fried chicken sandwich, and we weren't. I mean, there were some good ones.
There's some good ones,
but it's not like, wow.
What was the sandwich that, like, set the standard for you that, like, you were trying to recreate? Were you in Nashville, or was this a Nashville experience, or was it?
I remember, we do a Nashville style, and I've had Hattie B's. I think it's a great sandwich. I think ours is better, but I love Hattie B, and I didn't go in there thinking it was going to be better. I remember, like, having reverence, like, oh, I'm at Hattie B's. I hope ours is close.
Yeah.
And I had it. I think I called Gene. I said, do we have the edge on this? And that was really good. I think Blue Oak locally, they had it's like a sweet heat, like a sweet barbecue style. That was a really good one, but there was nothing.
Howlin' Rays.
In Los
LA.
Angeles.
Yep. I've had him on the show, Johnny Ray.
Really?
Man, that's a good sandwich.
And I remember
We
my
waited
brother
for
took me
2
there.
hours.
Yeah, just there was an excitement, and I remember thinking, man, we need something like that. And so we went and looked, and and
this is 2000. So this is 2017 that you guys are having this conversation.
2018.
Right, 2018.
Because it took a year to develop the recipe. You said.
It took,
2018.
And we would do it at a few marks. And the other thing too is we thought we'd have 2 revenue streams at some of these festivals. I mean, at this point, we're both working. Like we have to talk about that. At 2000, like just recently, maybe 3 years ago, I quit my job and am doing this full time. So at this time, we're working and doing this, which we should emphasize. Like, we were exhausted.
And that's another point to the like everyone, like, it's a general swing of things. It's a gradual swing into a full-time business. It doesn't happen overnight. It starts as a side hustle, right?
Right.
You guys
the
are
universe will tell you.
Exactly.
We were hoping it would pay our rent.
Yeah.
That was
yeah.
like the dream. Like maybe one day this will pay our rent every month.
So at what point did you guys leave your full-time jobs?
I left mine 2 years ago.
Okay.
Just about a little under 2 years ago. I was burnt out.
And you guys have been doing this for about 3 years, starting with the Gulf Tacos.
Yes.
Yeah.
I left mine in March.
Damn. Recently.
Yeah.
This
Just
most
then a pandemic hit.
Oh my gosh.
No, we're good. We're good. But I left it. There was some dispute over a contract. I was working on a federal grant.
What kind of work were you doing? Were you
I was at JPHSA. I had turned down a few marketing jobs. It kind of gave me a little bit of freedom.
What is a JPSA? What is
Jefferson Parish Human Services Authority.
Okay.
And they just do the whole gambit of health care, from
Gotcha.
a doctor visit, mental health visit, adolescents, social services, homeless, addiction, just everything.
Yeah. I love these interviews because like we get to talk to people who are, 30 years into their business, and they have to reflect back at this time that you're literally going through right now. This is fresh for you guys. And from everything we can tell, talking to Paul Tunerman, you guys are just almost selling out every day is how he explained it.
We sold over 200 sandwiches in an hour and 38 minutes yesterday.
Damn.
I'm
That's
still,
nice.
yeah, we
That's
went
crazy.
to Miel Brewery.
Yeah.
And just, I want to touch on this because, so Nick, who by the way just came through, he's looking at putting the AC. Nick is younger. He's about 25, 26. And this is what he does. And if you can't see me, he holds a phone to his face and he's always on the phone. And I remember it bugged me, but I remember thinking we need to make a stronger social media presence. And that's the thing. We can tie it back to the chefs is we meet them where they're at. He likes to be on his phone.
Yeah.
So I gave him the freedom. Like, dude, I want you to be in charge of social media. And so we kind of collaborated on that in particular with Southerns. And
so he was around when Southerns was.
He was around with Gulf Tacos
He worked
and
Gulf
then
Tacos
Southerns.
first, yeah.
Gotcha.
And there were some signs on the road. I remember a lot of people saying this is the best chicken sandwich I've ever had in my life. And Gulf Tacos is really good, but we didn't get this is the best taco I've ever had in my life as often.
Yeah.
We're talking on a pop-up, we would get that 10 times.
Damn.
And I just remember thinking, okay, this is catching, because I was doubtful.
So let's bring it back to the first pop. Like, so you guys had this idea. You knew that the Nashville hot chicken was taking off 2017, 2018. You knew there was an opportunity here. You take us from the whole idea of building out this concept. How do you even build out like a mobile food unit concept? Like, what things did you need? Like, were you using both equipment for both jobs, or one set of equipment for both jobs? Like, what?
Well, we
did you have to
already
duplicate
had
everything?
enough equipment to do. We were doing multiple Gulf Tacos at the same time.
Okay.
So there were weekends where 2 festivals were going on at the same time. He would take a crew and do one.
Okay.
I would take a crew and do another. So we had enough equipment. We had 2 tents, multiple fryers, multiple flat grills. So we basically had what we needed. I think we had to buy one more fryer to start Southerns.
Well, that was something I was curious about, because you're doing fish in one and chicken. I mean, were you guys using the same oil? Or was that?
Oh, no.
yeah,
It's
no.
separate tents.
Gotcha.
Like separate booths. Sometimes we'd be a few booths apart from each other,
Gotcha.
I think we had to buy minimal equipment to start. I mean, since then we now have 8 fryers.
Yeah.
But so we already had an idea of what worked with Gulf Tacos, and we just kind of had to take that and rearrange a few things. And we learned over time, like, it keeps evolving. Wait, I think it's better this way. Let's move this over here. It'll make it easier.
So you're moving into you're starting with the Southern's food. I love that you guys didn't want to like paint yourselves into a corner with a brand, which was smart. And I know you have other recipes you're looking to work into the mix eventually. When you started doing the Southern's foods, was it only festivals, or did you guys start as pop-ups?
We started with markets.
Markets.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how are you deciding which markets to go to?
Because we were already doing them with Gulf Tacos.
Okay.
So
you
we
knew
were
the
just
market.
doubling up.
You knew the market pretty well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
So
I
we
will say this with that. So we had Gulf Taco success in our databanks, right? In that we had that experience. And I remember we would do Southerns. And I think this is important. It's something I would have liked to have heard even though we're still at our infancy, we would do some pop-ups where we'd maybe make $250. And I would just say, hearts and minds, boys. Hearts and minds. We're going to slow. I remember saying that, but half trying to convince myself. I remember thinking there were moments where like, dude, we could just do golf tacos and quadruple this. And there was just times. And, you know, I really want to give a shout out to some of the early, like Jared, who's a riverboat pilot. I remember for some reason I respected him, and he came up and he was so cocky too. He's like, I'm somewhat of a connoisseur. And he took a bite and he said, this is the best I've ever had. And there were just a few people that said that, and it just kind of gave me hope. But dude, Southerns did not. It was a struggle from like early in 2019 till September. If you look at our profits, it was just scraping by, and then when we won Fried Chicken Fest, it really, really got crazy.
And it was hard.
Yeah.
Golf tacos was easy.
Dude, fried
Because
chicken
we were used to it. We knew exactly what worked. We were fast. And then we're trying to fry chicken on site with a line of people waiting. And it's like, it was a nightmare. I mean, it was not fun. I wanted to stay with golf tacos. I'm like, all right, y'all
what
go
was
do
it
something.
like when you guys have like this divide at this point? Like, how did you guys handle those? I mean, were there ever like disputes or like arguments about what you should be doing?
Minor.
Yeah.
You know, nothing major.
I mean, like, take us through like how to kind of like have those tough conversations when you have to like decide, should we keep doing this or should we, you know, bet on the sure deal? I
don't think we ever felt like we shouldn't keep trying.
Yeah.
I never did. Like, I knew it was something special.
Yeah. And I noticed in both stories you guys won an award in both situations. So obviously there's something to be said about the quality of the food, having a good product to start with.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, and one thing I'll say about this, especially if you're going to start out in markets and pop-ups, and this is really where I rely heavily on Gene. I know a lot of people that cook amazing food. Okay?
Yeah.
My stepmom, if we go, and she'll make Filipino food, and you will roll your eyes. It's so delicious. But the thing about this is it doesn't matter unless you can sell a lot of it. And that's really, Gene is the streamline. He'll stay up at night and think, how can we do this in a way? We do fried chicken sandwiches, and we do it relatively fast, and that was ambitious. But like with the tacos, we're making these purchases, like we're making money in increments of $8 and $9.
Yeah.
So you have to be quick. There's only so many minutes in an hour, and I know that the food is good. Awesome, that's a good foundation point. But after that, you have to be fast, or it's not worth it. And that's really, I think, where we excelled. Is that we can just manufacture it and we don't compromise flavor and taste.
And one thing to watch out for with that, though, with your staff, is I tell them often, speed is never more important than quality.
Yes.
Because we have a line of 50 people, and you get caught up in that.
Yep.
Speed, 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 speed. And then I see a piece of fish that looks soggy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I don't. But we have a line. It's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Speed is never more important than quality.
I love it.
You never know who that person is. I don't want one person leaving here with a bad experience.
Yeah, the one person that gets the soggy fish is the food writer, you know. Like,
right,
I
exactly.
I was going to give them Michelin stars.
Right.
Yeah. So one thing I love that you guys do is, you mean, obviously, you have to have the good food, but the brand is a lot of fun. I think you guys have a lot of fun with branding and marketing. And do you want to take us through like how you decided to like package and market these sandwiches?
So I didn't even know. I knew like hashtag that. I know people would say that, and I think I would even say it. I had no idea what that really meant. And this is where I relied on people like Nick.
Yeah.
I remember my buddy's wife, Stephanie, her kind of having a conversation of, you know, particularly with Instagram. And so, yeah, we went into it. We're all music and movie buffs.
Okay.
In fact, if you come to a pop-up, we're constantly reenacting some movie. And we wanted to make it creative. We wanted, I think, like the culture that we wanted to set for Southerns is we wanted to feel people. We wanted them to really have an amazing experience when they come and eat. And I'll give you an example. We did a pop-up a week ago at Second Line Brewing. And I'm normally frying, so I'm facing away from the customer. And I turned around, and there was this gentleman. He had like a sash on. And here, when it's your birthday, you put money and you pin it to your shirt.
Okay.
And so I looked at Nick, and I said, or no, you said happy birthday. And I looked at Nick, and I said, hey, did you? And he already knew what I was going to say. He said, yep, I gave him a free sandwich. And what I've told them is to do it proportionally. But if in your heart you feel that giving them a free sandwich is then just do it. I want them when they come to Southerns to feel special, and we know a lot of our customers. That's kind of the mentality I wanted. We also do it in social media.
Yes.
Our newest sandwich, the Sweet Prince, if you go back on the thread, that was a contest where our followers picked the name.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was hoping we get into. You bring your followers in on the decision making. What does that do?
I think it gives them like ownership, some stake into the company. Yeah. I think that it's interactive. We're always doing giveaways. We don't really have a loyalty program right now, but we're always giving stuff away. If I find out like a regular customer, it's their birthday, we're hooking them up. And what started as an experiment, we would do certain things. We did grit fries one time. We did stuffed wings, but we wouldn't print out a menu. I would just post. I remember telling Gene and Nick, like, let's see if they're really paying attention. And we put a new menu item. We didn't even say what it was. We said, we want your feedback on a dish we're working on. Just come up to the front and tell me you want the special. We didn't even say what it was. And we sold out within, I think, 15 minutes. They said, man, I want the special. They didn't even know the price or what it was. They're like, dude, give it to me.
So what I love, like, what do you do to get these giveaways to bite? Like, do you tell people to tag a friend, or like, right. What is your process for doing a giveaway process? I mean, I think you're doing giveaways too with the naming of the sandwich. Like what was like that step-by-step process of doing a giveaway and making it be something that not only are you giving food away, but you're getting your followers to take ownership in what you're doing?
Yeah, well, there's two things. I think that you get a lot of traffic. And then I think we do a giveaway every week. Sometimes I just want to give sandwiches away. Yeah. And so we want to give back the love. Yeah, they tag a lot of friends. Sometimes they follow, but it just kind of gets them interactive. I think when they think, oh, another giveaway, let's try. I think that really, really just benefits. I think that, there's a lot going on with the company. And I don't know if you've really looked at our Instagram. We've done movie clips. We brought out a fish sandwich, so I love Good Will Hunting. In fact, when you said, I was about to say Wicked Schmat, we did a scene from Good Will Hunting where we're doing the math problem. And if you zoom in, it's a fish, and, Lent's a big deal here. And so we brought out the fish sandwich for Lent. We've done a Forrest Gump scene. So we're just trying to get creative, doing giveaways, doing movie scenes. We got one coming up. So
I love it.
Yeah.
But back to the idea of creativity in your whole brand. And thank you for kind of giving some of the details away with how you guys go about your giveaways. But your whole brand is kind of, Southerns, but your sandwiches are named after famous singers, artists.
Yes. The heat levels.
Yeah.
Me and Paul had a discussion about this. We love music.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm surprised Gene's not tapping. So we're always like listening to music, playing music. And so, yeah, it's a Southerns chicken sandwich, and our heat levels are based off just artists that we love. So the mild is a Lionel Richie.
Yep.
The medium's the Otis Redding. The Rick James, we have it as super freaking hot. And then we have an underground, and we did an event, and there was this guy who said, I like it spicy. I said, oh, we'll make you a Rick James. And he ate it. He said, number one, it was a delicious sandwich. He said, but that's not hot.
Oh.
And I just put my head down.
Challenge
never
accepted.
again. So we have a Richard Pryor. It's not on the menu.
Okay.
You have to kind of follow us, but we have a lot of people. That's all they get.
But I think that's another thing right there is having like the secrets that make people feel special when they know about it, because it's like you follow, you have to follow them. Like these are all like little things that are coming out, like little secrets that you can do to make your brand kind of stand out and to make it kind of like alluring and like provocative almost. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But also I love that your brand is an extension of who you are, the things that you love, right? And you guys have fun with it, because like you have these T-shirts that you're selling. Your merchandise is, take us through that, like the idea behind your merchandise.
This happened, and this is where it happens organically. You got to think on your feet. During the pandemic, Tiny Buffalo Clothing reached out. Mondo loves our chicken. I think I put on the story, looking for a place to do a pop-up. I'll constantly ask, people that follow the page and want their feedback. And he reached out. I think he DM'd me, and he said, you guys can set up right here. And he's on Oak Street, Uptown New Orleans, and it's a house. And we set up the tent, and they're awesome. It's him, his wife, and his son. And we did a pop-up, and of course we fed them, and they gave us these Tiny Buffalo shirts. And we're like, dude, you don't have to do this. He didn't ask for a cent. And we did it next week, and we said, man, we should collaborate. And so he came up with some shirts. I had one idea of a shirt, which he did. There's always the Chick-fil-A with the cows writing "Eat More Chicken."
Yeah.
So I wanted the idea where the chicken kills the cow. And so on the shirt, the cow's like started to spray paint and he's dead. And the whole point is like Southern's chicken's killer. And it's like we're better than Chick-fil-A, right?
Yeah.
Like subconsciously. So he printed up these shirts, and I was like, man, I love them. And so what we did is we promoted it. And the cool thing about them is they have a digital printer. It's not like they have to print 100 shirts and hope they sell 100. They could come up, they could order, they would be on their porch,
Yeah.
and then they could order it along with online. We gave 100% of the profits to Tiny Buffalo.
Wow.
And dude, I was serious. Like,
Wait,
man.
so what is Tiny Buffalo?
It's a clothing. They
Okay.
print. It's a printing place.
Gotcha.
So yeah. And
So they were just fans of your sandwich, and they said, "Come set up in front of our place."
Yeah.
Exactly.
There you go.
And I hope, I don't know, I think we were able to help them. And so, yeah, we didn't take a cent from it, and we gave them all the profits. We did, I think we did a 6-shirt giveaway last week where we got them a good bit of followers. And it's just this idea of we want to help the people in our community.
Yes, it
you
always
know?
comes back around.
Yeah.
But you have these T-shirts, so you're not making any profit from your T-shirts.
None.
Wow. But I love so the T-shirts that I'm referencing. You have the name, like, so all of your sandwiches are named after these famous singers, and then you guys superimpose like a sandwich in their hand, where
Yes.
I'm assuming a mic would be or something.
Right.
So it looks like these singers are like. We'll link to it in the show notes, but it looks like these singers are taking a big bites out of
Yes.
their sandwiches. I'm gonna have to go to Tiny Buffalo before I leave
You should.
to get the Rick James. I believe that's the one I want.
Yeah.
Richard
But-
Pryor's awesome, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're great ideas, and it's just like you guys are like, you have like this brand, and like you have fun with it, and it's so obvious, and it's tied to who you are, which I think is a really important part of it too, because it's so much easier to show up to work every day to who you are, not
Yeah.
some other brand you have to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Try to make it fun.
Yeah. Any other big lessons that you can share with us? Because we're kind of like at this point where, we should talk a little bit about COVID. And I know before COVID-19, you guys were hopefully you were going to be opening a brick and mortar. That was the plan. Did you already have a spot like selected?
We probably looked at 7 or 8 different locations.
Yeah.
I mean, right before the
Yeah.
virus.
That's,
Yeah. So that was the plan.
so like what, I mean, obviously like the virus made you not go ahead with doing that. But why exactly did you make that decision to hold off? Did you think the market was going to come down? You get better deals, or like what was more opportunities with closures?
I think that was an idea. Yeah. If we hold off, but I mean, it was pretty obvious that we can't go forward with this right now.
Yeah.
Everything's shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where I think it helped initially having to adapt is I think you can't have tunnel vision. And it's funny because we met with Paul, and Paul said, "Hey, I got a food truck." And my almost exact words were like, "Paul, we're moving forward, not backward. We're not getting a food truck. We're going brick and mortar." And then you fast forward 2-3 months, we have a food truck in the parking lot, but that's a smart play now.
Yeah.
3 months ago, that wouldn't have been the smart play. And so it's just assessing the situation. And really and truly, the thing with the pandemic and the COVID is it was almost like each week it would change. Of like, okay, it works this week. And it was almost, and then we got into the marketing of the T-shirts. We did a lot where we started feeding healthcare workers. And that generated a lot of hype too, and we were able to help, and we made a lot of good contacts. And then it became like doing these pop-ups. So it was just almost what would work one week might become redundant the next week, and just staying on your toes and monitoring the atmosphere, And the funny thing is, in feeding the healthcare workers, and our followers would donate. I think a friend of ours, a lawyer, reached out and gave us enough to do 100 two-lane workers. We fed them, and then people started DMing, "Hey, I want to donate." And they started but we were transparent. We go everywhere where we did it. We teamed up with another restaurant that was struggling at the time. We love it, Pharmacy. And so we got donations for both, and it was able to help them. And then we fed healthcare workers. And so that was 1 week. And then now that we have the food truck, a lot of the doctors and nurses that we ended up feeding, can't wait for us to come and do lunch in front of the hospital. So it's just this idea, back to what we opened up with, service to others, and just it pays dividends.
Yeah, and just the power of getting food into people's mouths. Like you know, you're doing good, you're doing the right thing. But whenever you doing good's good business. You know, it always comes back around. And the best way to market your food, like we said before, is just getting it into people's mouths is the best way to do it. So what is your plan going forward? Like, for people that are listening to us, I'll have a lot of people who are right at where you guys are, where you have your concept, you have your food, you might be mobile, you might be in the point of becoming a brick and mortar. What's your strategy for the future?
This is where I'm gonna like reach out to you. I know that there's been a few people. So this trio came on Friday, and I think they want to invest, and this is uncharted waters. So maybe if you could point out some people that could maybe help walk me through that. But yeah, I think brick and mortar is going to be the direction. We've also went to Baton Rouge special. We were just there a few weeks ago, but pre-COVID is we wanted to build our customers outside of New Orleans, right? With that in mind. And so we have a pretty good following in Baton Rouge as well. But yeah, we've had 2 people that have kind of approached us thinking about investing. I think one of them have background in franchising, so which I know nothing about. So we're going to be consulting some people and learning this. But it's all, this whole thing has just been a learning experience, you know? Quick on your feet and adapt and grow.
Well, I think that it was smart to hold off on the brick and mortar temporarily because there's going to be so much vacancy,
right?
So much vacancy,
and I think because it's going to be going to be a restaurateur's market,
right?
You know, so if you can survive this, I think there is going to be another end. I think things will return to somewhat of a normalcy eventually, but we're going to lose almost 50% of all restaurants. So there's going to be so much more on the table and so much talent acquisition on the table too. Right. To kind of like wait until things start to turn around is kind of a good play. You already have your brand. You guys are still selling out to all the events you're going to, even though events are kind of slow right now, I'm imagining. There's not many festivals right now.
There's no festivals.
Yeah. We don't,
So how are you? That's a good question. We need to get into that. How have you adapted to be able to continue cash flow without festivals? Are you just doing pop-ups at breweries? Is that kind of what you're leaning on, stuff like that?
Right. Exactly. So we're not really hurting from this. Okay. I mean, we did lose a lot of revenue from these festivals.
Yeah.
We had Gulf Tacos and Southerns booked at every major festival this year.
Okay.
For the first time.
Yeah.
Before it was just
It's a lot of work to set that all up too.
It is.
Yeah.
But I talked to all these different organizers. We were going to have them right next to each other. We had staff lined up. And then the virus hits, and they're all canceled.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we just kind of, like he talked about, we just kind of adapted. We started doing 2 a week during the virus, one at Tiny Buffalo, another at a friend of ours' bar in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Just takeout only. No hand-to-hand contact. They would call ahead, order it, and they would pay through an app.
What app were you using? Do you remember?
Well, we use Square most of the time, but, I mean, we would do Venmo, whatever, to pay beforehand. No cash.
Okay.
They would come up, and we'd have their orders on the table with tickets with their name where they know which one to take as theirs, you know?
Yeah.
And we were selling out like that.
That's crazy, man. So anything we have not discussed up to this point before we go to our next break? Thank our sponsors.
No, early on, we wanted to give it a price point because remember I said that I worked in all this fine dining. Most of what fine dining is meticulous care for the product.
Yeah.
Okay? But since I couldn't normally eat fine dining, like that would be a big deal, is we wanted to keep the price points reasonable. And there's certain entities where whether we're in a recession or not, they're going to thrive. And I remember thinking, I want to give them the pinnacle of a product, but I want them, if we are in a slump, our economy, I want them to still be able to enjoy that. Yeah. And I think with our price points,
so you're $9 a sandwich, right?
$9 a sandwich.
Yeah. So a lot of people would say that that's not cheap. I mean, I think the consumer would probably say that's not cheap. But there's a lot of restaurateurs out there that are saying you probably get $12 for that sandwich.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of the places we went to get chicken sandwiches were $12, $13, $14.
Yeah. So how did you guys come up with that price? Did you cost out every item in that sandwich and figure out what the value is? And did you like? Is it a percentage of that? Like, how'd you come to that number?
I mean, we did cost out everything, and I don't know if we had like a specific method.
I think we just based it too on what price points were. We were cheaper. We actually get told quite often that should be more.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to something that's within that level, it's more expensive.
But it's not. You're not getting fries with that either, are you?
No,
You're
not.
just getting the sandwich.
Yeah, you're just getting the sandwich.
Yeah.
So yeah, with fries it'd be $13, $14. So, I think that's doable. I mean, we went to McDonald's and we got 2 breakfasts. We were heading to an event, and I think we upped the drink to a vanilla iced coffee, a large. It was $17.
Damn.
So yeah, I think for what you're getting, I think it's a great price point. Yeah.
Listening to you, you kind of remind me of P. Terry from P. Terry's in Austin, Texas.
Okay. And
they have like the highest quality like burger, like it's like a drive-through like In-N-Out style burger, right? But they rely so much on volume because they know they're practically giving the sandwich away. But that's their approach. Is like they're banking on the fact that they know they're the best and that they're going to have a line out the door every day.
Another thing though is the toppings that come on this sandwich are made right here from scratch. Yeah. House-made pickles. I watch him make these seasonings from scratch, and
Making
here coughing and sneezing, breathing in seasonings. Cutting pickles, cutting cucumbers, you know what I mean? Making the aioli from scratch. Yeah. It's not like we're just putting jar pickle on a piece of chicken in a bun. Yeah. Like there's a lot of work that goes into this.
Yeah, I love it. So one question I ask all my guests before going to the speed round is how have you transformed? So the mission statement of Restaurant Unstoppable is to inspire, empower, and transform the industry. So how have the two of you personally transformed over the past 3 or 4 years?
How have we transformed? I think we're building this company up. I think we're using various tools. I think we're working with a lot of entities in the community. And the most important thing is our volume and sales have gone up and our quality has not. And I think that's also important too. I know with growth, that's always an issue. And we're learning. I think we're learning how to interact. I've been reading this Leader Shift. I tend to be kind of hard-edged and just kind of praising people for what I've made it a point to praise you lately, because oftentimes I think it and I assume because I'm thinking it, but I don't necessarily vocalize that. So just kind of being better at that.
Yeah. What about that? Same question for Eugene.
I think in the beginning, this for me, it was just like a side hustle. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like hopefully we can go do a few festivals a year and make some money. And then now it's just taken off to where like this is going to be something big.
Yeah, I love it.
And I think one thing is that I know I was never afraid to approach someone and ask for guidance. Yeah. And he wasn't either. Like at the festivals, like I would just walk up, put myself out there and be vulnerable and be like, look, how does this festival, and a lot of people would help us.
Yeah, and I think that's another benefit of being a generous, good person, just generally, because people are going to be that much more willing to help you when you do approach them if you have a good reputation, if you have a good name,
right.
if your business does exist to serve others, that the word about that gets out, your reputation gets out, and people are going to be that much more generous with you. It always comes back around.
And then now I make it a point, if I see a new vendor come up and I see them struggling and they're not sure what, I go immediately and help them. We try to help everybody we can under us,
I love it. Great stuff, guys. Great conversation. We're back, and the first question I have for you is, what is your it factor, a habit, a trait, a characteristic you believe most contributes to your success? Maybe you get one answer from the both of you guys there.
I think for me, I try to remain calm in the panic. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
Like it feels like the world is ending because it's so tense right now. We're so busy, and this just happened. And I try to remain calm. Like, okay, how do we fix it? Right?
And what's the same question for you, Anthony?
Passion.
Love it.
Yeah.
What are your biggest weaknesses?
I have high standards.
Yeah.
I have high standards.
Both the strength and the weakness.
Yeah. It seems like it's more of a handicap, but yeah, expecting that, and I'm coming to learn that no one's going to care as much about the company as us.
Yeah.
But how can I move forward with that understanding? And so I think I'm working on that currently.
I love it. Do you want to share a weakness?
I agree.
Okay. What is one question you guys ask or thing you look for when you're building your team? When you're asking those questions, when you're trying to find new people for your team, what are you looking for? What are you asking?
I think the way we do it is we'll kind of explain to them and try to warn them on how it's going to be out there. And if they agree to that, we bring them on, and then that's their interview.
Yeah.
You know?
Are you willing?
Right. It's like we watch them work, and we know within 5 minutes if they're going to work out or not.
I love it. Share your biggest challenge today.
Go ahead, buddy.
I think kind of what I touched on. My biggest challenge today is to get this thing to the next level is complete uncharted waters. And so finding the right mentors, and just going about that. Because now we're going to get to an area where I don't have much experience. I know my food's really delicious, but I have no idea if we were going to franchise or open multiple brick and mortars, what that's going to look like. So that's scary. I think that's going to be the next big challenge for us.
Yeah, that's a big one to tackle too.
Another big challenge also is balance. We both have young daughters. We both have 3-year-olds at home, wives. You know what I mean? And we're like married to each other basically in this business. It's like a marriage.
Yeah.
And like his wife told me yesterday, you're with him more than I am. I'm like, I know. So it's a balance thing. Like I think we're on fire here. Everything's going great, and I get home and she's not happy.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. I got her happy, and now I get here and I'm like, oh man, I've neglected this.
So how are you dealing with that challenge?
Just a day at a time.
Yeah.
I'm learning as I go. You know, I'm trying to put it, balance it all.
Yeah.
And I'm learning as I go. I don't do it perfect.
Yeah, nobody does. I think we could all be better at that. Share one code of conduct or behavior you teach your team. So this is a core value, a way to be, a way to act.
I have it written up here. It's on the other side. There's a meticulous pursuit of perfection with a constant sense of urgency, right? We're striving for that, but we have to have that sense of urgency. That's just from the work perspective.
What is one uncommon standard of service you teach your team? So this is something that's common within your operation, a way to go above and beyond to please your guests, but it's not common throughout the industry.
I think he touched on it too, like the giveaways.
Yeah.
Like each customer we treat like a friend.
How do you guys track the giveaways? How do you compensate for it? Is there like do you have like a budget of giveaways you allow yourself that you work in, or is it just kind of
not really? We kind of just do it on the whim.
Gotcha.
And it's worked out so far.
What is one book that's a must read to make us a better person or a restaurant owner?
The one I'm currently reading is the Leadership. I think it's John Maxwell, which is weird. He has he's a Christian leader, so he has a Christianity background, and he started writing these books, and business leaders started taking off. He's now a bestseller, but it's kind of what we touched on is that compassion, that giving back, but also being a leader, which oftentimes you don't hear about that. You hear about like cutthroat Wall Street. Yeah. And so it's just that idea of I can't do it alone. And so how can I make the people around me better?
Yes, I love it. What is one thing you feel restaurateurs don't do well enough or often enough?
I don't know. That's a tough one.
I see the wheels turning.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're about to see a shift. And I think what this COVID has exposed is what slim a margin we're riding. It's weird that I know a few sous chefs that are making more now on unemployment, and I don't know what the answer is. If the price has to go up, I don't know how that works if we go into a deep recession. But what I will say is one thing that stood out during this was this, and I know some of it was they got the PPP, and it was better to stay closed, but I was really scratching my head how I wasn't seeing the adaptability that I thought I was going to see.
What do you mean?
Just to do like to-goes, to kind of cater a menu. I'm not going to get a steak to go, right? So you'd have to, it might not fit the menu that you were doing, but I just remember thinking wondering, and it's not a criticism. It was just like, man, I wonder why they're not open.
Right.
Like you could just do this, or you could do this, and that was kind of one thing.
Yeah. So the not being willing to adapt to survive.
Yeah, and then servers making $2.13 an
And
hour.
you
That's crazy.
Yeah, the thing you said earlier, by the way, like I don't know how we're gonna get over this, how we're gonna overcome this challenge of like just people aren't making it what they're worth, you know. And I think we've undervalued the food in general, and we're starting to realize that like when we strip when we look for shortcuts and we try to make it about the bottom line, like the quality of the food suffers, and that affects our health, that affects our livelihood, all these things. I think it also comes down to just sharing knowledge and explaining that, you know, it should be like we should stop trying to like undercut people and just say, hey, like this is the cost of a sandwich, it's this percentage, you know, and like getting on the same page that food should be, you know, a percentage of what it costs to make that thing, and like sharing the knowledge on how to do that right, I think is how we're going to overcome it, and helping each other out. Do you want to reflect on that?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think awareness is going to help with that. But yeah, I don't. Again, I think the price of certain things is just going to have to go up to pay the workers their value. But is the public going to be willing to? So it's tough.
It'll be interesting, but I think, you know, we have to educate the public. We have to let them know this is what it costs.
I think they're going to be educated by the ripple effect that's probably coming.
Probably, for sure. So what is a service you've outsourced to? I know you mentioned Tiny Buffalo for your T-shirts. Any other companies you've outsourced to do something for you?
No.
Can you? No. I can't think of anything. Yeah.
We'll just give Tiny Buffalo another pitch there.
Yeah.
Tiny Buffalo for
merch.
For merch, yeah. Okay, so what is one technology you've adopted within the four walls of your business that's had a huge impact?
I mean, the Square, you know, we can track our sales and see what's up and what's down, what's really moving, what's not. Other than that, I mean, we don't really. Can you think?
Instagram. I can.
Oh, yeah.
I can set up. I think we did one
We
here.
did one here.
Yeah.
We did. You drove here.
Yeah.
It's hard to find.
It's right by the airport. We're literally on the right. So we're so out of the way. I think we set up a tent, and we did. The hours were horrible, and we did almost 2,000 in sales to go orders in the pandemic. And what that's really all that we kind of covered is our
Geotag?
followers.
Yeah.
Is I can say, hey, we're going to be here at this time, and that they will come and support us, and that's awesome.
That is incredible. But you know, I'm going to reinforce what you're doing. You're there for them, you know, and that's what happens when you're there for other people. When you make it about other people, when you're generous with other people, they return that generosity for sure. And this is the last question. It's a doozy, so get ready for it. If you got the news that you guys would be leaving this world tomorrow, all the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants would be lost with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom that the two of you could leave behind. What would those 3 pieces of wisdom be?
I would say, like, always be kind to others, no matter what.
Yeah.
Don't be greedy. I try not to get greedy. You know, we see this money coming in, and it's like, it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
Because I can have all the money in the world and still be miserable.
So was that 2 or 1?
That's 2.
Okay. Anthony, give us one more.
I would just, help others.
Yeah.
It really would.
Yeah.
It's weird. In giving away, you receive.
So be kind, don't get greedy, help others.
Right.
I love it.
You sound weak, huh?
No, man, it's great. It's great. I love this conversation, guys. Thank you so much for letting us come in. If we wanted to come join your team, and you guys sound like you're a young company, you have a lot of opportunity on the table, you're going to be looking to hire a lot of people, what's the best way to connect?
Either through Instagram, that's probably the best way.
And your handle?
At Southern's Food.
And that's Southerns with an S. Food.
Correct.
And this is how we wrap up every chat. Who's 1 or 2 or 3 people you respect and admire, and somebody you would listen to this podcast if you knew they were a guest on the show? Who are they? And call them out.
You said it earlier. Who'd you say, the guy doing the sushi?
Oh, James Corwell would be good.
James Coral.
Yeah, I think there's a neat place, the Banh Mi Boys, which I think like the Vietnamese and the Latino, that's the new Creole. All right, that's the new Creole food in New Orleans. They're in a gas station, and they are just killing the game.
Yeah.
Bon Mi Boys?
Bon Mi Boys. They're not far from here. And I don't know what's his name's the Turkey and the Wolf.
Oh, yeah.
Have you done it? It's
Mason, I believe is.
Yes.
Yeah, he's on my radar. We did connect. He wasn't able to. He had a tight schedule this week, but he's on my radar. I think he's down to be a guest in my repeat return. But yeah, awesome. Look out, guys! I'm coming after you. I think that's it. Like I say to all my guests, thank you so much for coming on the show.
You.
I wouldn't be able to do what I do without you guys being so generous with your time and knowledge. And there is no questioning, you are unstoppable.
Right.